On this episode of The Story Detective, we have Camp Nano Week 1.5. We also have me sitting in natural lighting because there's no power. We have a high wind advisory. We're confined and in the dark. So we're going to press onward. I have some rewrites to do. I have old tech, which we'll get into in a minute. And we're also going to be talking about characters, a foundational basis that brings conflict to every level. I hope that you'll stick around and join me in this ambiance. I revamped 2 old computers to get to some older writing programs for editing. I haven't edited in a while since I was fast drafting my series. The programs for editing used to be really useful to have. They would save time because they had really good prompts that kind of suggested things. This is a Dell Mini 9. Remember when mini laptops were all the rage? Before my iPad, this was actually my traveler, and I used to take it to like cafes and libraries, and it's almost unheard of to be sitting in a drawer for years without use and still have battery life. But after I rebooted it, I saw the battery had a charge. I used it the other day, and I used it for about 2 hours, and it still had juice left. So I'm pretty good for, I think, at least 3 45-minute sprints. Maybe I'll keep them to 40 to be on the safe side. Sometimes it takes a minute with old tech because it wasn't as instantaneous as newer tech. Remember that Windows XP sound, anybody? So I set this up, by the way, to be a distraction-free writing device. There's no internet connection anyhow, and I put the writing programs on here. I put a Microsoft Works suite from 2002 to 2006, and it has Word. I can type in here, and the old version of Word, take it to my MacBook and it will upgrade it. But I can't type something on my MacBook. You can go forwards, but you can't go backwards. So I've got the rewrite so far on a flash drive. What I still have yet to rewrite is in a file here on my iPad. And my goal for today is to at least get through with the rewrite so I can actually start making some progress in word count, because my word count at this point it's pathetic. So look at that. Very tiny. Tiny little keys close together, and I keep wanting to do the touch screen even though it's not a touch screen. Update. As far as Camp Nano, it's affected most people the same way, that we're moving ahead, but we're not moving ahead in a way that's at breakneck speed, at least not for the members of my group. We are adjusting, we're making progress, but it's not the same progress that we would normally have made. Personally, I'm working on something creative every day, but it hasn't been my Nano project every day. It's not an easy time out there. As creators, we look at the world and we empathize with so many things that sometimes I feel like we can't turn away from it because we feel like we're turning our back on the world and it's suffering. I think we need to remind ourselves that the world needs stories, and the hope that they bring, and the lessons that they carry. And who knows where our stories may end up within the next generation of novels to go out after all this is over. I know that once our work is out there, it does touch lives that we've never met and may never meet. I remember my one art partner when we went to an art school one time. He was feeling kind of discouraged about a number of things, and we were talking to this class. There was this one guy that said an earlier work of his inspired him to draw, and that he was in that school at that point because of that project he did, because of that work he put out to the world. Under normal circumstances, he would have never have met that younger artist that was inspired by his work and how it changed his life. That is something I think that if you need to give yourself a permission slip to take a break from everything that's going on in the world and focus on your work, I think that is a very important permission slip. And to understand that, I think that's a very large thing. Okay, I am ready to get on with round 1 here. While batteries are still going strong, let's see how far I get with the rewrites. How do you create conflict at every level for your characters? The simple answer is to just have them disagree. And yet, if people are arguing just for the sake of the scene, it can seem artificial or forced. When the underlying current of logic and reason is missing, readers can't emotionally invest. Does the writer need to explain everything every time characters disagree or do something stupid? No, characters, like people, self-sabotage themselves all the time. Friends can turn away from your hero when he needs them most. But as the writer, if you don't understand why, your character's actions can lack both feeling and motivation. You won't find what I'm about to tell you in a writing book. Some of it came from a conversation with a medical professional who gives lectures in the workings of the human brain. Other things came from studying psychology, history, even life experience. I'm sure I'll insult a few people before I'm through, but if you stick around, this might change the way your characters interact and quite possibly your writing forever. The first round is done, and I've got the rewrites just about finished. I'm almost at the end of this chapter, which will complete the rewrites and I can start moving forward, which will be nice. I checked the battery on this. It still has about 75%, which is good. I checked the batteries on the other things to make sure everything's holding up, and so far everything is working fine, which is great. I got something to write on so I can keep track of word count once I get beyond the rewrites. See where I'm at so I can update the Nano site later, maybe make some progress. I don't know. I'm kind of editing some things out and putting some things in, so I don't know if I'm taking away or adding to what I've written already at this point. At this point, since the lighting is off and on and I don't know how much the day will sustain itself with the clouds out there, I'm going to dive right into round 2 and keep moving ahead. In order to understand how your characters will act or react in a crisis, you need to understand a bit about human behavior. I'm not talking about the things we observe every day in family and friends, or even what we read about or see in movies or on the news. It goes deeper than that, yet explains so much of it. And you've probably heard before that so much of what we do in groups or as humanity in general comes from survival instincts. That primordial mammalian part of our nature which hasn't gone away because we give it so many reasons to stick around. How does it work and why? Some call it survival of the fittest, a misleading statement at best. Survival may have meant picking a strong leader who could fight and hunt at one time. These days, that often means the loudest, most boisterous personality, because the jungle has become cities, and the hunt is for wealth. And I'm not just talking about big business or politics, although that's often where it's easiest to notice. The more acceptable it becomes to do horrendous things under the heading of it's just good business, the more it trickles into everyday life. And those boisterous personalities are often described as having a killer instinct, hearkening back to a time when we had to be willing to kill in order to survive. How does that affect us in our daily lives? And how can we use that to create interesting levels of conflict in our characters? For that, we'll have to go a step further and conclude with what the expert in the workings of the human brain told me about how all of this plays out on a subconscious level. Hey. What you got?
Tea. Electricity. For the moment, anyway.
Electricity is good. Snacks are good. The Snack Master and I have been contemplating videos where she makes an appearance. We've been considering ideas for a while. How many people want to see the Snack Master lose her anonymity?
That sounds ominous. I'm out.
Okay, I'm going to take a break, have a snack, and I'll be back in a few. Second round got cut a little short because I had a break with a snack, but I did finish all of that previous chapter where I figured I was just about caught up with the rewrites. With the stuff that I've deleted, though, I'm still now less than my word count on the Nanowrimo site. So by deleting some things and editing, I'm now under where I was the other day. So, but at this point, I'll be adding 2 words, so hopefully I'll be caught up pretty quickly. And since the electricity is back on and I have a cup of tea, I figured we'd go for a cozy, warmer light. Because if I turn on the bright lights and have everything glaring, I think it's going to be too much with what I had previously, and it's going to look like total crap. We'll stick with the cozy atmosphere. I'm kind of getting into the vibe and the mood of it, so I don't want to change that up either, because that might change my rhythm for whatever I have going on here. So on that score, without further ado, let's get on with round 3 and see if I can actually catch up with myself. As a species, humans have a really tough time of getting out of our own way, and those primal instincts play a big part. Throughout history, there's been an undercurrent that as children, most guys need to make friends based on those same things we just talked about. Our instincts lead most of us towards strength, and usually end up with boisterous bullying pals, or get victimized by them, so they can practice what's perceived as future leadership skills. Girls at an early age are often attracted to the bad boys because instinct leads them to find a strong protector. This sounds insulting to modern women, and believe me, I'm offended as a man. Yet, out of a shocking number of women I've asked, do you like nice guys or assholes? All but a handful answered the latter, because if life comes down to a fight, they want that person at their back who can be an asshole in the face of potential trouble. Humans haven't grown a lot, have they? Because there's always a fight, from the playground to work to family. That's a harsh reality to wrap our minds around. But if bluster, business, and bullying have perpetuated our lack of growth, what's the end result? A lot of broken people. So when a real crisis hits smack in the middle of life, we end up with a couple of responses. Number 1, denial. Ignore it because it's not real. 2, panic. Run wild with the herd and try not to get trampled. 3, protection. Lash out in some manner. That brain expert told me people can't see these things. It's more of a autopilot response. You can lead them to the point of understanding how their own actions self-sabotage their efforts, and they'll say, "Oh my God, I feel so stupid," then go back to behaving the exact same way the following week, because they can't accept it. For your characters, denial happens once your main character gets in trouble, and friends treat it like a contagion, as if they'll catch their bad luck, and they walk away. It's survival. It's often without reason, and if pressed, they will lash out, sometimes irrationally. That's the protection factor. And beyond the bluster is often fear, and wealth disguised as power can often be the most fearful of mindsets, because money is borrowed power at best. There's so many ways to manage and manipulate people, but money as power is chief among them. Without it, our villains can't buy people off, or pay them to do their dirty work. All of these things are opportunities for the writer. All of them motivate characters to partake in conflict, because just like their human counterparts, they know they're missing a few vital pieces, that they are not whole, and to have this secret exposed to the world means their identity and their control is just an illusion. Denial can be a comforting blanket until it starts to smother you. So after that round, I'm very close to being caught up with where my word count actually is on the Nano site. Not quite, but close. So I have some editing to do on some of this, which may add to it. It may cut some more out. I don't know. But the good news is within the next day or so, I should be ahead of where I'm at. Not to say that's a whole lot, but there's movement and there's progress. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly unusual vlog on a slightly unusual day. If nothing else, maybe it'll break up the monotony. Until next time, when we meet in whatever the next circumstances will be on the next exciting episode, keep those keyboards clacking.